I'm feeling tired, the heart beats shallow now. Take it to the grave, I can't let it out.
Alright, so today we are going to be talking about the games that we played as kids and how it affected our taste as adults in video games. So, Ice, do you want to go first? Because you've been going back and playing some like N64 games now.
Yeah. Like, N64 is kind of where I entered the video game realm at a very young age. And, like, I was playing video games that I probably shouldn't have been playing, like, GoldenEye and Road Rash, and more appropriate games like Mario N64. And I still play Road Rash and N64 as couch gaming games just because, like, they're fun, really fun to play with, you know, people we have over at the house and stuff. I love that the graphics are still, like, kind of really fuzzy, that you can't really see the bananas or, like, incoming traffic coming at you. So, like, everybody kind of has a equal chance of gaining the lead.
GoldenEye was for sure a banger.
Oh, for sure. The aim,
Like GoldenEye.
The very start of that game, you crawl through a ventilation thing and drop it on somebody in a toilet.
you do. The aiming thing is the only bad thing about that with the N64 controller.
Yeah.
It's still really fun, but, like, going back, like, from, like, modern games to, like, an older game like that, like, it kind of bothers me with the aiming aspect, because my go-to is to, like, aim before shooting, and, like, in that game I'm like, nah, that's not working out.
It got easier once I got used to it, but it was like, yeah, you hold the trigger down and then it pulls up like in modern games, it's like the reticle is always centered. But in that game, when you held down the trigger, or not the trigger, the aiming, it would let you move the cursor around the screen, basically.
Yeah.
So you would aim specifically at a certain spot on the screen. It was weird.
You know, honestly, in my opinion, GoldenEye wasn't even. This is really a hot take, but in my opinion, GoldenEye wasn't even the best 007 game. It was Everything or Nothing, which was on, I think, like PS2, and I want to say it was on Xbox, but I could be wrong about that. But I know that they ported it to GameCube, and it's like there was like an entire multiplayer campaign, and it was like you played as different agents, and you unlocked them as you played through like the co-op together, and like completed different like milestones. They would like unlock a bunch of characters and stuff, and then the main campaign, bro. It was my favorite Bond. It was Pierce Brosnan, and then it was fucking William Dafoe was the main villain.
Oh, nice. Yeah, he's a good villain.
Indeed.
Yeah.
I mean, like the, I mean, N64 game isn't gonna compete with any generation game after that because it's just like such a jump. But it just gets nostalgia points.
100%.
Well, I feel like GoldenEye really does stand above like a lot of like even modern games though, because it was just they really poured love into that game. Like it wasn't just like another video game. But I feel like that also goes into the fact that like back in like the 90s and 80s, like they were just making video games to make video games a lot.
Tim, when do you think they, like, timeline wise, like, when they stopped pouring, like, 100% effort into a game type thing? Like, more modern games, when they release bigger games, like, they're not 100% complete, and, like, you have to wait for them to, like, update the game, like within a month or two or even longer after its release, compared to, like, when we were younger, when a game released, that's what it was. This is it. You might get a DLC if you're lucky, but, like, they weren't, like, released uncompleted.
Um That's actually something that I've thought about a lot since like I've been gaming for so long. I think that was around 2008. Um, that was like the last year that like a lot of games had like their final like good entry. Um, but when you jump past that, like a lot of games in 2008 started taking more inspiration from specifically in franchise games. They started taking influence from the games that came before them, which would inherently be fine if you weren't trying to capture that same formula, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Like Resident Evil tried to capture the same essence of RE4. Um, Silent Hill by this point had started moving towards American development, so you got stuff like Homecoming and Downpour that came out afterwards, and those took inspiration from the movies. Call of Duty started really heavily relying on past gameplay and what made those good, but focusing more on their multiplayer. Um, I'd say that Battlefield was the only one that managed to make it out with one more game. I'm not certain when Matt would be more the focal point on that one of when Battlefield 4 came out. Um, but I think Battlefield was the only one that ended up making one more game before that jump to like the money heavy focus came into play. Because even stuff like Tony Hawk had a few good games before they swapped over and just stopped making like Tony Hawk because it wasn't making money, despite the fact that they would have made money if they had continued making them. What's
Yeah, I
your
think it goes like it goes with the whole. I think when multiplayer really started jumping off, and most games started having it, they needed gaming companies needed a way to update the game after it came out, especially competitive games like Call of Duty and Battlefield and all that. They needed to you have to tweak things, and I think that coinciding with the fact that games strayed away from a final product type deal, and it went from that to like you're just kind of paying for a contract to play the game that can be yanked at any time. So those two things together, I think, is what really shifted uh, to the more like money hungry type of strategy, especially with the corporations just kind of buying up all the gaming companies. It makes it kind of just like, oh well, you're on a sheet
It
for how much money have you made us
it
this
does
year.
suck that when you buy anything digitally from games or even movies, that like the company that owns it can take it away even though you own it. Compared to like when we were younger, everybody was getting physical copies of it, and like when you bought it, it was actually yours, so you could like play it when for as long as you want, at least until the CD broke, type thing. But like I've heard rumors of people like buying games or movies like digitally and then losing the ownership of it due to whatever circumstance with the company or situation with, you know.
Yeah, I remember when this was near the end of the hard copy, like of the era when everyone had the hard copies. Like they, I can't remember what company it was, but they tried to make it to where you could still have the disc, but it would it would have a code on the disc that coincides with your account. So like they could still disable the game even though you had the disc, and like the market really fought back against that.
yeah
I think like
once multiplayer started becoming the main like influence in a lot of people's like viewpoint because they wanted to play with their friends, that's when the companies kind of took over for like wanting that extra little bit of boost every time a game came out. I think Call of Duty is probably one of the worst offenders for that, to be honest. Well, I'll say EA instead of Call of Duty because I feel like that wasn't the developer's fault with that at all. um But like, I mean, before 2008, I mean, even like you had like Conker's Bad Fur Day and stuff like that that was coming out. They were before 2008. They were still making like those like smaller games that people just wanted to make just to make a game. But after 2008, it kind of you saw a decrease in that. And it wasn't, in my opinion, it wasn't really until like 2012, whenever you started seeing those indie developers coming back and trying to make like stuff that was like different. I mean, don't get me wrong. You still had game developers that were out there trying, and game companies that were trying to make stuff that was different. I mean, look at Remedy. I'm biased towards Remedy because I love Remedy. I love all their games, but Remedy, just about every game that they put out is like different in some way. From like Max Payne to like Quantum Break to Control or Alan Wake. They've all got like a different kind of gimmick that you don't see very often in video games. And honestly, back in the 90s, like Rare was the one that was like the big like they were making like the classical kind of games. So like you had stuff like I said, Conquer, you had Banjo Kazooie, you had Donkey Kong Country, that kind of stuff was Rare. So like you had like a bunch of big names right there. And then once 2000, actually with Rare, I'd say like 2005 tops. You stopped seeing all that. But for me as a kid, I didn't have an N64. If I played N64, it had to be at like school or like summer camp when like people brought in their stuff. I had I had a Nintendo and I had a Sega Genesis up until I think the last real game console that I got as a kid was the GameCube. So like up until like 2015, I was behind like by at least two generations in gaming. So like I got to fully experience like all those games that came out in the 90s, some of them from the 80s, and then like I didn't really get to experience what everybody else was getting with like the multiplayer. So that's one of the reasons I really fuck with like single player experiences the most. At least for me personally.
I can dig it. Uh, I've been really looking for a new storyline to follow, and I'm very thankful that you finally pushed me into the Red Dead 2 storyline, which I've been loving so far. I don't know why it took me so long to get into it, but I'm very happy that I'm finally in it.
So what's your big thing that you're liking about it right now?
Well, like in solo campaign type games, I just really enjoy the freedom to roam, the freedom to kind of be able to choose the path that my character is going to go from beginning to end. And even on the side quests, like, do I want to help the stranger out or do I want to rob him and kill him? Like, I like these options in a game. Even like something as small as customization, I like love in games like that. So I think that love for the freedom to roam in video games started when I first got into Fallout 3 back in around 2008. Like that was my first like open world game that like I was able to really dive deep in and connect with.
Matt, what was your first experience with that? Was that Skyrim or Fallout?
The open world.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, actually, that would have been Legend of Zelda for you, wouldn't it?
I didn't play a lot of Legend of Zeldas. I played Ocarina of Time, and that was, I guess you could call it. It's more. It's not quite open world, but
Ocarina of Time was open world.
yeah, I guess it. Yeah, it is because you can just kind of pick where you're going.
That was so Ice, I don't know if you know this. Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time was the first video game that I got and played all the way through that had a like actual like story with cutscenes.
Oh yeah.
So like I have a really soft spot for Sonic the Hedgehog and The Legend of Zelda and Metroid. Um with Metroid was the first handheld game that I ever played. Um and I think it was Metroid 1 on Game Boy. And I played that when I was like 6, and I don't think I put it down until I actually beat the game. But I also my parents got when they got me the Sega, they got me Jurassic Park and Sonic the Hedgehog and some art game. But Sonic the Hedgehog was the first game that I ever played. And it was at I want to say it was like a dentist office or something like that. They had like a Sega set up for kids. And like I played that and I did not stop bugging my parents until they got me Sega and they went and actually had to look to find out what Sonic was. And then they bought me Sonic and Sonic was the first video game that I ever beat. And then the next Christmas they got me Sonic 2 and 3 and I did not put those down until I beat those as well. But Legend of Zelda was the first game that had like a full on like story that was like fleshed out and like it was the first open world game. There were other open world games at that point, but like that was the first one that I actually beat. And then I have tried every single Legend of Zelda, but I think the only one that's ever caught my attention in the way that like Ocarina of Time did was Twilight Princess. Now that game was my shit. I rocked the shit out of that game for like years.
Oh yeah.
Matt, what was your first game that you like just spent like forever playing? I'm curious. I don't think I've ever
So
asked you that.
my first console was in 64. I was like a little kid. First game was Command and Conquer, and that was like all I would play. It's my first exposure to gaming was our real time strategy.
That's crazy.
Probably one of the best, honestly, probably one of the best ones that I've played.
I have that picture
The
of you
Command and
getting
Conquer
that somewhere
series
on
is
my
pretty
phone.
good.
Yeah, I think your mom sent that to me. I have that picture.
Oh yeah,
You look so happy and surprised.
like I love that. Yeah, I wanted the game for a long time.
What
Gaming ever since.
oh yeah. What was you guys' first character creation game?
It's hard to remember.
I guess mine would have to go back to Fallout 3. That that's kind of what got me very into the customization of characters in video games. Ever since then, I've like whenever I like get into any game, I'm like, is there customization? I want to know. But yeah,
I think mine might have been RuneScape.
Really? Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because you built a character on there. I think that might have been the first one.
Mine was Tony Hawk American Wasteland.
nice.
You make a character in that. Actually, the character creator in that was pretty in depth for a Tony Hawk game, honestly. Kind of surprising. Um I that was actually Ice, I bet you have a similar experience with this with Fallout. That's one of the reasons I love character creators so much is because like I'm able to immerse myself more as the character
100%.
and like more easily put myself in like their shoes
Yes. I
or put them in my shoes, which are like depending on what kind of game it is.
exactly. Yeah.
Um, in case you guys are wondering, by the way, I have some of these questions. I actually asked some of the people that I know to write questions for what they would like to hear us talk about, and these have all been questions. Well, most of them. Um, ooh, Ice, you won't be able to answer this one. Matt will. What are your thoughts on the emergence of more Souls-like games in modern media?
I don't see why Ice couldn't answer that one as well.
Well, to be fair, I haven't exactly played Souls games before. They look cool. I just haven't found myself in that realm yet.
Full disclosure, well, Tim has told me a crap ton about Dark Souls, but my only the only real Souls like game I've actually played is like in that I've actually played for a significant amount of time would be Elden Ring. But as far as it being in, I say that to say that I'm not like I'm not massive into Souls likes. Like that would be a Tim question for sure. But um, I think it being in media is kind of just expected because I mean the subject matter is really in depth. Like it's really deep stuff. The themes I feel like are really good for the screen because it's not like a modern setting typically. It's more like a fantasy type deal. Really dark tones and stuff. And then you see a lot of more anime type stuff coming out into the streaming services. I think that'll fit right in as well.
I, so my view on this is that it's a good and a bad thing. Um, so obviously, From Software is the big boy on the scene with those games. Um, you see a lot of other companies trying to kind of replicate that success by making it their own. A good example of that is Lies of P. Um, I think that a lot of companies are focusing too hard, and this is the downfall. I feel like on a lot of these games that are coming out now that are Souls-like, I feel like a lot of games are focusing too harshly on the parrying. To make a Souls-like, you don't have to
Yeah.
just make a game that revolves around parrying. Um, that's not to say that those games aren't good. I just felt that I would rather dodge and block than have to strictly parry like a move that the AI can spam. Uh, and Lies
All
of
options should be available, you know?
Yeah, I think for what Lies of P is, like it's a passion game for them, and I think that they do absolutely fine with that. Um, you have other games that like Lords of the Fallen that aren't necessarily Souls-like, but fall into that roguelike um category, which has
Mhm.
become more and more popular these days. I don't think that every game needs to be categorized as a Souls-like. I've seen a lot of trailers recently for games that are coming out that are labeled as Souls-like, and I don't necessarily agree that they should be. It would be like calling every shooter that comes out Call of Duty clone kind of thing. I think that a lot of these games need to be respected as their own like material.
Mhm.
But that being said, like I've always enjoyed like difficult games and like learning how to beat them. A good example is something like I guess for what it is now, it's not that hard, but back then being a little kid and trying to play through Mega Man games where you're having to run, gun and shoot and jump and like learn and what enemies are weak to what kind of affected my influence on like my enjoyment of Souls likes,
Mhm.
specifically the Souls games. Um obviously you guys know I am massive on the Souls games. I fucking love that shit. I am a
They're
sucker
good.
for pain. Uh let's see here. Ooh, this is an ice question. Um let's see here. How am I going to reword this cuz this doesn't make sense. Okay. Ice.
Yes.
What is your opinion on Fallout potentially entering more media?
Well, the thing is, I was a huge fan of like 3 and New Vegas, and 4 was cool. the story just didn't hit as hard because it felt really similar to three's story. But 76 was a letdown, sadly, I'd say. Um, I know some people love it, but it just didn't hit the same for me. Just because, like, to finish the game, you need other players to be able to do it. I feel like going from a strictly solo playing game to a multiplayer game, there needs to be the option to be able to finish the campaign by yourself. And I just don't see that being present. But with like Fallout going to the big screen, as in TV shows, I loved how they did the first season of Fallout. Um, I'm hoping there's other video games that can make it to TV shows as well. I tried to get into the Halo TV show, and it just didn't hit the same like Fallout did. Fallout really stuck true to that, like,
Pretty good.
yeah, it
Yeah.
really stuck true to its like universe, and like the Halo one just, I don't know, I felt like it was a flop in my opinion. Um, Granted, I didn't finish all of it, but I saw most of season one, and it just did not hit the same. Uh, how about y'all? Do you have like any opinions of video games going to big screens, and do you have any opinions of which ones were hits and which ones flops?
In terms of video games going to movies, I feel like Sonic has so far been the most successful one. You don't really see video game movies prior to Sonic really doing a lot of justice, but Sonic 1 felt like a Sonic movie. Like it felt like they were trying to kind of implement like Sonic X, which is the cartoon that came out in the early 2000s. It actually may have come out in the late 90s, but I'm pretty sure it was early 2000s. But you can feel like Sonic X, you can feel like Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic 3 being influences, and then Sonic Adventure, obviously, with like, Sonic Adventure 2 with, Shadow. Um, I feel like Mario didn't do Mario justice. I felt like the animation and the colors and like the atmosphere, I felt like those were really well done, but I felt like the story was kind of
I
crap.
also did
I think
not think Chris Pratt should have been Mario. That's who voiced him, right?
no. Yeah,
Okay.
I would have prefer I was fine with Charlie Day being Luigi since he was supposed to be comedic relief. Um, but I really would have rather have had like actual uh Latino or minority representation as those two characters.
Yes.
Um, I feel like Doom has never been done service in the movies. I think the best part of the first Doom movie from from whatever 2000 year that was, with The Rock in it, I feel like the best part of that movie is towards the end, whenever it's in the first person perspective. I think that's the best part of that fucking movie, which is sad because it's like an hour long. It's like an hour and a half long, and the best part is like maybe a minute or two. Um, and I feel like that extends to comic books as well. I feel like Blade being the movie that really brought the resurgence in comic books in the 90s really says a lot about like what media can do for something. Um, but in terms of like video games going to like movies, I feel like personally Sonic is the best one that I know of that's done it and then been able to make actual success off of it, with substance behind it. That's not to say that Mario wasn't good. I just felt like they could have done better. And I'm not a fan of and again, this is not to put down, the people behind it, but I'm not a big fan of fart jokes and stuff like that in movies. But when you think about it, Mario was made for kids, so I can see why these decisions were made. It just feels like you would have wanted to, include the older audience. I feel like Jack Black was a perfect cast for Bowser, to be honest,
Yes.
because I like Jack Black. I think he's a great actor. He's a great comedian, but I feel like that was really the only good casting for me personally. I did like the little star guy that was in the dungeon with Luigi. That was kind of funny.
Yes, that was probably the best part in the movie, in my opinion. Best character.
And like that movie has some good stuff in it that makes sense for the Mario world. Like Ice at the very beginning with the little penguins trying to fight Bowser with their ice, but has fire abilities, so obviously they're not going to be able to do much against Bowser.
Yeah,
That was like a great moment in the movie. That was like a great point for them to really use it. I feel like Seth Rogen was a failure as Donkey Kong. Um, Honestly, I wouldn't have even. I don't know. I know that Nintendo is trying to go towards the shared universe kind of deal with that movie, but I just feel like with Sonic being in the direction that it's in, and having this movie be over here, I feel like there's a very big lack of understanding to some extent on what Mario was, and then putting it into the moving form, if that makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think Matt, you've only seen a few of those movies that I listed, right? I don't think you saw Mario.
Yeah, I already knew I wasn't gonna like that movie.
Have
That makes sense.
have either of you seen the Minecraft movie? I have not.
And that's another one. I'm just like,
I have seen it now.
You have. What's your thoughts, comments,
Yes.
concerns?
Um, there was some stuff they did well. I'm not going to spoil anything in case somebody hasn't seen it who's listening. But I felt like Jason Momoa was honestly not even the best part of that movie, which says something because he brings like this really cool energy to like whatever set he's on. Um, I don't think the movie was a failure by any means. I think that it definitely knows who it's targeting. It knows what audience is playing Minecraft. It knows what audience watches the Minecraft YouTube stuff. They know who they're targeting, and they do not shy away from making sure that people see the things happening in the world, or like the little things in the background. There's a reference to a YouTuber or streamer. I'm not really knowledgeable on this, but he passed away, and he there's a homage to him in the movie. So like they really knew. Oh shit, they really knew their audience that they were targeting. So I think they did a pretty decent job at like that. For me, it was a miss as a Minecraft movie, just because I would have rather seen like maybe an animated form of that rather than like live action kind of characters going around. The NPCs, I don't think it's been I think it's been a week or two now, but I don't think the NPCs like the villagers were like live action characters. I think those were all animated. It was just very jarring to see like Jack Black and Jason Momoa. Jason Momoa is this big muscle man. It was really jarring to see all of them like just walking around as people in this like CG world. For me,
So, the only thing I know about the Minecraft movie is that there's a certain scene that would play during the movie, and like people in movie theaters would just throw popcorn and destroy the theater. It got so bad that like they paused a movie during the seeing of this scene, that like police officers would come in and be like, if you wreck the joint, we're just wrapping it up. Like, do you know what scene this is? I have yet to find out what scene this is.
I am not personally very into the Minecraft community. The most that I play Minecraft is like with you or Jackie.
Yeah.
So I don't really have exposure. That and I don't watch Minecraft videos. That's probably more Gabe's forte. Gabe would probably be able to point it out right away, but I didn't see anything in there personally that would have made me like throw popcorn or anything. That might just be a like a Minecraft fan thing, to be honest.
Yeah, I have yet to understand that. It might have to do something with like a chicken in Minecraft or something.
Maybe. Ooh, this is one for all of us. Oh, that's from Jinx. Jinx wrote this. Uh, What was your first Guitar Hero, and did it influence your taste in games at all?
Played every single Guitar Hero, and every single one of them slaps except for Guitar Hero Live. Complete trash. I mean, the concept was cool. I mean, I liked the channels and stuff, but they took away what made like the core of that game, like playing with other people and like seeing who could get the better score and stuff. So I was like, what's the point in having a multiplayer Guitar Hero if you can't even play against your friends or whatever and stuff like that? I was just like,
You mean in like a
but yeah, I
competitive way?
digress. Yeah, well, not even like that. Just like, I mean, it's fun to play with other people in that game, but it's fun by itself. But like, I don't know. If you're gonna have a multiplayer version of the game, why would you get rid of that?
That's fair. Ice,
I
what
don't
about
think
you?
it necessarily like
Oh,
changed my. Sorry, yeah, I
oh,
don't think it changed like, how
you
I
don't think
view
it
games
changed?
or whatever. Like what, the second part of the question, what was it again?
Oh, that's not even the second part. She has a part two though. The other part of the first section was how, I think it was how do you think it has it affected your like taste in like games?
Um, I think I have more of a maybe I have more of an appreciation of like rhythm based games. Um, yeah, but yeah, Guitar Hero is fire. I wish it didn't die, but that is an era that is long closed.
I
What about you, Ice?
I never personally ever owned a Guitar Hero game, but I've played some of the original Guitar Heroes with like comrades growing up. Not really comrades, associates, but like it was fun, and I was really happy to see that. I know this is not the same thing as Guitar Hero, but I'm happy that like Fortnite has a version of it that is
Yeah, it's
it's
pretty
pretty
sick.
cool. I like it, and it makes me relive those moments as a kid playing with my associates with their Guitar Hero instruments and stuff. And uh, it's a really different branch of video game for me, just because I'm so into the shooters and stuff. Like branching out into a rhythm-based game, like Matt said, it's kind of broadened my video game horizon just because normally my go-to is a shooter and every now and then I'll play like a racing game, but it's mainly my go-to is a shoot you in the face game. So being able to go to a rhythm-based game and enjoy it is really fun. Especially like I remember in high school I'd go to house parties and stuff and they'd whip out the Guitar Hero set. They'd be like, "Hey!" and we'd be turning up to that. So
For real.
it's it's such a fun uh, uh, game. I have no bad critiques at all.
I
Um,
wish that they made the controllers less clicky. I mean, I understand why they click. It's so you can sync it, but they're so loud.
Well, you're playing with instruments. They're supposed to be loud.
That clicky noise, I don't know, it's too loud.
Is that
I think that was a limitation of the tech back then. I think if they made one now, they'd be able to fix that probably.
would you say that's your only
For
negative
sure.
critique, Matt?
Hmm.
No, because he told us that he didn't like
Oh,
live.
right. Yeah.
Well, putting live aside, I no, yeah. I mean, the game's pretty solid. I don't think there's anything I would change other than like more songs, but that's what live did. They just messed up the landing on that one.
Um, I guess for me, my first one was my first and only Guitar Hero was World Tour on the Wii. Um
I'm sorry.
and don't be, because it had Linkin Park on it, okay?
Oh no, it's just because it's on the Wii, man.
I mean, I was able to look past that just because it had instruments for it, but it was not
Right.
great. I liked it. The problem was that um by the time that I got to play, there was I don't really know when it started. Like I said, that was my only one that I played. Actually, no, I think I played one of them at your place at one point, Matt. Um, I think the servers were down. They had been shut down, so I couldn't just play like user generated stuff. And
Yeah.
like that kind of took away from the experience a little bit, because there's like only a limited amount of songs on there, and whenever you play them all, like, and you get a high score and there's nobody else to play against, it didn't necessarily become mundane for me, but it kind of became redundant, if that makes sense. There's only so many times that I can play like whatever the Linkin Park song was that was on there, or like the middle stuff like that. Um, I did gain like a higher appreciation for like the competitive nature of that game, though, in terms of playing against my little sister. And we didn't really
Oh, yeah.
play against each other. It was more so like vibing together.
Yeah.
Uh, I think one of the big downsides that I had to that, my biggest complaint about that game wasn't even that. It was the syncing of the other instruments that came with that one. Specifically was a drum kit and a microphone. And I didn't expect the microphone to pick up well, but the drums were a big letdown for me. Because we didn't have two guitars, so somebody had to play guitar and then somebody had to play drums. And that was a really big bummer, because whoever was playing the drums, you're playing, but it's not picking up every tap of the pad. Um,
Yeah, they had an issue with those, man. Like the sensors were they just went out really easily, I guess, because you're literally beating on them.
yeah. I also gained a. I mean, I've always been into music, but I gained a bigger appreciation for the people that can actually just play instruments, because playing those games, you really realize like how much they actually put in, and you're not even like doing chords, you're hitting like just the buttons. But
Hmm.
there's like different buttons at different times. Sometimes there's multiple buttons at one time if you're playing the harder ones. You just gain a bigger like respect for the people that play like instruments, because there's a lot that goes into like being able to learn how to play those and then being able to execute at the same time. Even the people that like read like sheet music while they play, like they still are like reading and getting input and still doing output at the same time, like registering all that is crazy. That's like another level of multitasking, in my opinion. Um,
Mm.
I I'm bummed that Guitar Hero is over. I would have really loved to have been around for like the like new games coming out, but even from what I heard, like outside of like Matt, that live really did kill it. And then they had Rock Band, which was like all of the instruments, and that really put a damper on it as well.
Mhm. I
Um,
thought Rock Band was good too.
I never actually got to play Rock Band. I wanted to though. And then, hang on, I have to scroll through these. Um, okay, so part two of her question, she sent me this later. So part two is, if they were to reboot Guitar Hero or like make it more realistic, would you be willing to play it? And do you think there's a market for it in today's society?
Oh yeah, for sure. I would try it.
Me too.
I think people would buy it too.
I feel like they'd make money just off of nostalgia alone.
100%. Like,
Right.
updated nostalgia too.
Um, Not only that, but like there's so many more genres have become mainstream now. I feel like they would make probably a killing honestly, but I don't think that that's in their field of view at the moment. I think that they're more focused on other stuff. I think they shut down Guitar Hero Live finally. I think I remember seeing something about that, and people were pissed that had it because of the
I
last
bet.
one. I think that there's a place in today's society for Guitar Hero. I think that Guitar Hero is one of those franchises that if you were to revive it and actually put the money and love into making the games again, and that's not to say that Live didn't have love behind it, because I mean the idea behind it was awesome. I mean, live reaction from like the people in the crowd, that's a pretty cool idea, and seeing like the actual like stuff, I think that's a cool idea. I think that the instruments, like the I guess the controllers, would be far more advanced now. I feel like that they would. I feel like they definitely would have resolved the clicking and like the noise
Yeah.
output from the actual instruments.
A- Are there any other like music-based games currently like mainstream at the moment? Like,
So the problem with music games is that a lot of them are mainstream overseas or in like other places. Japan has a bunch of rhythm games that involve music. I think I forget what one of them is called. It's like a drum game. It's like a drum rhythm game, and you play along to like the music. Um, Nintendo tried their hand at it with Donkey Kongo, I think was the name of it. It did decent, I want to say. I remember there being commercials for it and like ads for it all over the place when I was a kid. Um, I think Rock Band is actually still active. I don't think they've made a new game, but I think that they are still active. There's like indie developers that are making them. So they still exist. It's just that it's not as mainstream as it used to be with Guitar Hero and like when Rock Band first came out. And I think that's partially just because like when you hear Guitar Hero, you associate it with like the instruments and like the on-screen stuff. Like it's just like an iconic thing. Um, it's kind of hard to replicate that success and then try and improve on it. I feel like to some extent because like what else are you going to put on the screen? You know, there's definitely ways to do it. I think if that Guitar Hero had moved away from the fretboard on the screen. This is probably a hot take. I don't know how the Guitar Hero community feels about this, but I feel like they have moved away from the fretboard and just had the whole screen be what's going on, and had like the icons come onto the screen like still as if they were on the fretboard. Um, I think that probably would have helped innovate a bit so that you had that little bit extra of immersion because not a lot of people were looking down at the controller, so they're not sitting there just looking at the controller. They're looking at the screen, but when you have that fretboard in the middle of your screen, you're not seeing everything that's going on
You
and
know, I
having.
agree.
Hmm?
I agree. I think that'd be good. Then you can see the whole. I mean, not that you would be paying much attention to the background, especially if you're playing harder, but the people that are watching you or like whatever. This just makes the game more aesthetic
Yeah, like
because you're
the
really just matching the colors to your motor memory.
Yeah, like there's just small things that I think they could have improved on that probably like even with live, I feel like from what I saw you play, Matt, I feel like there's a lot of improvements just visually that they could have made to help probably have boosted the popularity and like the demand for another one. And obviously the demand for Guitar Hero is there. I mean that shit is gonna probably be there forever, honestly, because people want that experience of being able to play it, feel like they're playing like at a show.
yeah.
But yeah, I think just visual things and maybe the instruments probably could have. But yeah, I think that's fine. We have Oh, actually, Ice, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I mean, if Guitar Hero was to like reemerge and like make it,
We'd be
oh
playing
yeah,
that.
for sure, I'd be buying all the controllers, and hell, if it required a new console, I'd buy that too. But um, I feel like for the visual effects, I feel like that should be like optional type thing. I feel like there should be like an option for you to see like the
I like
yeah,
that.
like you should be able to choose your visual effects because they're mainly just cosmetics. They're not necessarily going to change the way you play the game. It's
Mhm.
I feel like there should be more options in that regard, and I feel like that'd be a awesome addition to the Guitar Hero universe.
You know what? I'll add to that, Ice. They need a character creator. It doesn't have to be an in-depth one, but a character creator for the person that you're playing as in the
I
band.
agree, 100%.
I feel like that's not a shit ton to add.
Exactly.
And at least now, I feel like that's not like a demanding thing. I mean, you got all kinds of games that are coming out to have character creators. Um, all right, we only have 2 questions left. Let's see. This one is from Lyle. This one's actually for you, Matt.
What you got?
I'm oh, here we go. Sorry. I just remember that he said this one was specifically for you. Okay, here we go. Do you think that there is a game that could come out to rival Forza? And what would you want to see in that kind of a game?
Hmm. Oh no, man. Forza is probably one of the best racing games out, and some would argue in like gaming history, really.
I'd agree with that, honestly. I feel
Uh,
like Need for
yeah,
Speed was the only true competitor.
the physics are crazy in depth. I mean, there's like there's a solid theme, and like there's a lore specific to the game and all that. It's like so. I think a game to rival that, it would have to do all that and more, right?
What would you
Um,
personally want to see added to it? Like, would you want to be able to get out like what kind of mechanics?
yeah, I don't think I need to be able to. I don't think I need to get out of the car per se, but like I think having like a basic character creator and then seeing your character get out at locations and like just stand near the car or whatever, which Forza does do at times. I think that's pretty cool. Um, I don't know, man, more just like for those kinds of games, lots of customization to the max. You know what I mean? Bodywork, engines, all that stuff.
Would you want a mechanic
So,
shop that like has a vein of like not necessarily the full extent of it, but would you want like a mechanic shop kind of like in the vein of like car mechanic simulator?
hmm. Well, that would be cool. I don't know. It's tough, man, because like if you're talking about actually making a real game, I mean, you kind of have to pick and choose because you don't have an unlimited budget. It's like so. I don't know if we're gonna. I think seeing a Forza competitor is gonna be few and far between.
Yeah. I feel like you can't really put Gran Turismo in that category because it's a different breed of game.
Yeah, they all have their own niche. Like some are more arcade style, like Need for Speed,
Yeah. And
and
Need for Speed for a while, like with the way that they did some of the later ones, was the only true competitor, and they weren't even in the same vein.
What is it? Is it Gran Turismo? There's one that's like real heavy on the physics and like realism.
Yeah, it's Gran Turismo.
Yeah, and then Forza's kind of like a balance of both.
I feel like Gran Turismo is really their only competitor right now. Well, Lyle, I hope that answered your question because that was kind of a vague question, buddy.
No, I thought it was a good question. I just like I just don't know what I would add. You know what I mean? Forza does a lot of stuff already.
I see. I didn't. The only real racing games that I've ever played were uh, Test Drive. I think is what it was called in the early 2000s or 90s. They had like a little bit of a presence, and then uh, Need for Speed was my big one, just because it was in back then. It was like this arcade style. It wasn't necessarily like it is now, where they have like a really heavy online presence with their open world and stuff. Um, and I personally, I'm not good at Forza, so like I'm not able to have any real input on that. But I will say that I appreciate the like actual impact on like driving just in any game that Forza has, because everybody wants to have that like pull on their vehicles that Forza does. Like if you play games, like you feel Forza in some way now. I feel like even if it's just like you can feel like the kind of influence on like the way the cars move. They try to
Mhm.
add that realism that Forza has. All right, final question. Where the hell is that text? Huh. I feel like I feel like this is a question that all three of us can answer, but this seems more geared towards me. Uh, hmm. So basically, this question is asking. It's about horror. Do you think that horror has room to evolve? Do you think that using AI to evolve horror is a possibility? And what are the things that you dislike in modern horror games? Uh, yeah, this seems more like a me question than you guys, because you guys don't really. I know Ice doesn't really dip into horror very much.
Same.
Um, honestly, I feel like horror games are they're a weird faction of gaming because you want it to be scary, but there's a difference in opinion of what's scary. Um, for some people, it's like small spaces. For some people, it's like what's lurking in the dark around me. Um, like there's different kinds of horror. Like that's a pretty broad question to have to answer. But I will say, I think that some of the indie developers are doing it best right now, where like even they're even making like these games that have influences from other things. And I will always say one of the biggest games that I want that nobody is making is Animal Crossing meets Silent Hill. That's that's one of my biggest shits that I want that game, because I just think it's a cool like idea. But there's when it comes to horror, I would like to see more like co-op horror. But having somebody there with you to experience the horror inherently makes a game that you're playing at like a PC or on your TV or in your hands, it makes it less scary. if that makes sense, because there's somebody else there that you can talk to, and it kind of relieves that tension to some extent. Um, but then again, there are also games that do it really well. State of Decay isn't necessarily a straight up horror game, but it has good tension in it because you can lose
I
your
love
characters.
State of Decay, yeah.
Alien Isolation back in whatever year that came out, like that game you have the ability to turn on the microphone, so the xenomorph can hear you, like enemies can hear where you are if you like breathe too heavy or whatever. Um, Outlast has the mechanic of you don't have a weapon, and you have a video camera, and you're going around recording, everything, and you have to manage your batteries on the video camera to manage night vision. Um, Resident Evil has its gimmick of gun fu in some of them. I mean, there's like so many like different elements of what people think is scary, but I think that because there's different versions of horror, there's different inputs on this. So mine personally is I like the tension of not knowing what's gonna be coming at me and having limited ammo. I don't necessarily not need to have a gun to feel kind of that tension, but it's really hard to scare me in terms of horror because I really fuck with like the unknown kind of horror. I think I've talked to you about this, man. I like the idea of not knowing what I'm up against necessarily. Um, that's like because like what's scarier than not knowing what the fuck you're trying to fight? Like, can I fight that shit? Like, is that motherfucker gonna come out and it's gonna be the next monster like around the corner? Like, how the hell do I fight that? And I like the option of not having to fight. Resident Evil used to do a really good job of that. Uh, uh, like being able to just like run through a room and not necessarily have to kill anything but a boss. Is nice. Um, my big one that I'm really big into is Alien Isolation. I think that's one of the best horror games I've ever played. Just because of the pacing, the way that things happen in the game. Yeah, there's some low points in it, but it's pretty good game. I highly recommend it. Um, what was that other one that I played recently? Hang on. I can pull this up because I'm on my PC so I can look at my Silent Hill 2 remake. Silent Hill 2 remake. I mean, that game is really fucking good. I love that game. I don't really want to put Alan Wake in the realm of horror because it's not necessarily a horror game. But like having the ability to not be able to see is scary. But a lot of games now do this terrible thing where they try to make the game just dark for no reason. Um, and normally, whenever I see that, and this goes for all games in general, and maybe you guys agree, maybe you don't. You're trying to hide bad graphics or like bad level design,
Ooh.
is what I've come to find. Not to call any games out,
Name drop somebody.
but
Name drop.
Callisto Protocol. Um, Dead Space Remake did a great job. But I will say my top two horror games of all time are Silent Hill 2 and Dead Space 2. I feel like Dead Space 2 is a good mix of that action horror and like actual like fear, because you can totally, if you're playing on the harder difficulties, you can totally run out of ammo. Um, Stuff like Left 4 Dead, I don't necessarily consider horror. I mean, it's a horror game, but you're playing it with like what, three other people,
Uh,
and it's like wave based. So like, I don't necessarily consider that to be a horror game. What I consider to be a horror game, uh, uh, it can be a co-op experience, but normally I prefer like that single player, like taking on like a threat that you're not sure you can actually make it out of, kind of thing. You played Outbreak, Matt. Outbreak had a decent way of making the horror stay relevant in that game, despite your AI not shutting the fuck up.
Yeah, like they it was mainly built into level design too. Like I can't remember the specific. It's been a long time since I played this game, but there's an area where you have to walk through water, like it's kind of up to your waist, and there's enemies in there that'll mess you up, but they're not. You don't always know where they are, so they'll just like pop up at you like very close. It's like kind of. It's more like kind of like jump scary, but I think it's kind of cool.
I just feel like there's that's probably the biggest thing that I absolutely hate in horror right now. That's become so big, even in like other media, is the jump scare factor. I can't stand jump scares. I think they're the stupidest gimmick ever. Oh yes, let me startle them. That's not scary. You throwing something in my face just to take it away. That's the stupidest shit I've ever seen. Actually, no, that's not even true. You know the stupidest shit that I've ever seen is, and I'm gonna call him out by name. Silent Hill Homecoming has fucking quick time prompts. The big stupid buttons that pop up on the screen during specific moments of the game. That is the dumbest shit I've ever seen. You're interrupting what's supposed to be a scary scene with a big green A button on the screen. um. Oh wait, no. There's one more question. Actually, I was wrong. I apologize. Ooh. I maybe all three of us could answer this. What are your opinions on games like Sifu?
I love seafood.
Sifu Ice is a martial arts game. It's a roguelike, which means it's hard. Um, but it's like you choose where you're blocking. So like you can block your chest, or you can block like your legs, or like dodge and that kind of stuff.
Well, granted, I haven't played Sifu, but I do like diversity in games, even though I'm not familiar with it. Like how I was introduced with uh, Guitar Hero. Like I fell in love with it just because it's a different type of game. It's fabulous, and I feel like Sifu is, it's its own genre with the more, like you were saying, more hand-to-hand combat type stuff. So
Yeah, I would definitely like to see more melee games come. I feel like the shooter genre right now is really I don't want to say oversaturated, but really populated.
I would say oversaturated. It's just really overdone. I feel like so more hand-to-hand combat games would be awesome to diversify the gaming community.
You know, this is off topic from the question, but you know, a kind of game I would like to see more of is like in the vein of Psychonauts. I would love to see more psychological stuff, or games exploring like mental health or like that kind of thing. That's such like a it's such an unexplored section of gaming when it comes to like big developers. Psychonauts 2 is probably one of my favorite platformers that I've ever played now. Um, I would really like to see more games that took liberty with their like Psychonauts does with their art style. Um, I feel like we're starting to finally get to a point where like a lot of those people from like our uh a lot of millennials are getting into like game development now. Like they're becoming like actual like players in the game where they can have like say in it in the companies.
Mhm.
Um and I think that's cool because we're seeing a lot of more diverse art styles. Little nightmares where like you're a little character against big threats. Um Stuff like honestly like I like games. There's more games coming out where like the bosses of like certain kinds of games are like just massive fucking monsters. That's pretty dope. I like fighting something that I'm kind of like, ooh, that's big.
Yes.
Like, oh, that's a big mama jama right there. That motherfucker tall as the building. I'm a sucker for noir games. I recently tried. Matt, you know about this. I recently tried a game called Nobody Wants to Die. And it's a cyberpunk, kind of like cop game, but you can you're not necessarily like fucking with time, but without going into too much spoilers from what I've played so far, there's like you can bid on bodies in this world, and basically you don't have to die, but because there's corporations behind it, it's become borderline a mandatory thing. Um, and like so people have just been living for like I think your character has been alive for like a century or some shit.
Mhm.
So like what you're doing is you're trying to like solve murders and stuff like that, but you can like recreate the time, like the series of events. So you're basically making like it's almost like a VR like atmosphere, and then you rewind and fast forward to like put clues together.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's a cool concept. I wasn't a really big fan of it. It's a little too slow paced for me. I like it does, and a game doesn't have to grab my attention right out the gate, but I do like it whenever it starts picking up. Like Red Dead 2 has a slow start. Um and then once you get out of like that tutorial, like things depending on like what you're doing, they kind of start like picking up with like side quests and like stuff like that. Which I'm sure you've started seeing
I
Ice
have.
by this point. Um or like what's another game? Uh Helldivers. I would like to see more games like Helldivers.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be cool. Um, and I think now that that's become such a huge thing, I think we're going to start seeing more games like that. Alien Fireteam wasn't bad. I mean, it definitely has its flaws, but it's no Aliens Colonial Marines. That shithole. All right, yeah, that was actually the last question right there. What have you guys been up to?
Working, coming home, playing Civ. You know,
Very nice. Yeah, I know you're a sucker for those real time strategy games and the builders.
well, this one is technically a turn based, but it's probably one of the best ones out.
That's fair. I'm not good at those. My ADHD goes insane. I'll be sitting there playing those, and I'll be like, I need to go put my clothes in the washer. Ice,
And
ice.
you'll have time to go do it. It's turn based. It'll wait on you.
Yeah, see, that's kind of the problem, though. I want it to be actively challenging me. I guess it does. I don't know. Maybe it's
Oh,
just
and
not. Maybe it's just not like my vein. I guess. Ice. I think Ice recently finished Doom.
I did.
The yeah,
That w-
it was his first Doom.
that was a really wonderful game to dive into. Uh, I will probably play another Doom after I finish or get further into Red Dead. Just I really like the game style that game offers, where it kind of demands you to be consistently moving, and it shits on campers, which I love. You can't just be
Yeah,
camping in that game. It's like, nah, fam, you gotta move. Run, bitch, run! Like you gotta keep going.
Doom. The original Doom was the first shooter I ever played.
Hell yeah.
And then from that game, the next game that I played is such a completely different game. It was RE1.
Love that.
You can't move when you shoot in RE1. Instead, you hold down the trigger and your character aims, and there's like I think it has auto aim.
What
It's been a while since I played RE1.
what would be your least favorite game that you have ever played?
Superman 64,
And why?
because that game is trash. Should have never been made.
Okay,
Fuck that game.
Matt, how about you?
You said the worst,
Worst
game?
game and why?
I don't know. I can't think of one off the top of my head.
Okay, I'll go. I've actually played my worst game with Tim. It was that fucking Borderlands game. I forget which one. I don't know which one it is, but at first
Three.
at first, the gameplay seemed okay. Like I could have got into it, but like I'd say after the first mission or first chapter or whatever, there's no need to continue listening to the storyline. You are better off just muting the game, turning on your jams, and playing with whoever you're gaming with. And even then, it gets boring and bad quick. It sucks. Like the story sucks. Yeah. I hate to shit on a Borderlands game, but yeah, I did not have fun with that. No. And we gave it how many chances? I think we gave it at least over 10 hours worth of chances. I think even more.
Yeah, we gave that game a long time to pick up, and it fell flat on every surface.
I tried playing it.
That like
I tried playing.
the characters wouldn't shut
They
up.
would not.
And it was like every 5 seconds they were talking. I really hate when games do that. I don't mind if it's like a team of characters and they're Dragon Age is a good example of this when the characters are talking, but it's not all the time. They just kind of banter every once in a while. I think that's fine, but yeah, that game really fell flat when it came to being decent, in my opinion. Actually, Matt, you know what I would like to see more games doing?
What?
Stuff that like Stray did.
I like just kind of just like the random world building.
Yeah,
More like an adventure game.
not putting you in a human's shoes is nice.
Hmm.
That's pretty much just about every game you play is you play as a human. It's nice to play
Yeah.
a game where like I'm just a cat. That's pretty dope. And that game does a good job of just throwing you into the world as well.
I really did enjoy Halo 2 for throwing you in on the enemy's team during the Arbiter's storyline to kind of just get a different point of view, even a different weapons, different playstyle. I wish more games would get you in a different perspective, like you were saying, whether that be from an animal's perspective or your opponent's perspective. Like, I wish they would add a more point of view and even like the option to change your point of view type thing.
Honestly, I'm surprised that more games don't have you just straight up play as the villain.
Yeah,
I feel like that's a unique take that like a lot of games just completely bypass. I mean, technically in Sifu, you're the bad guy because you're the one like going out into the world and doing or like beating
For
the shit out
vengeance.
of people, yeah, for vengeance.
but like that's
So like I mean,
that's for vengeance though. You're not like really being a bad guy, and that's
I know that's why I'm saying that's like the only real like
like.
it's a technicality.
Is there any game that you would say that you just play straight up the bad guy?
Yeah, there's a there's quite a few games where he plays the bad guy, but there's not a lot of big name big boy games that like come out where you play as the villain.
What's the biggest one
Um,
that comes to your mind, at least?
I think the biggest one that comes to my mind at the moment, uh, hmm. The biggest one that comes to my mind at the moment is Postal. And that one you're basically just a dick. Um, outside of that, I mean, Dark Souls is weird, because you're not really like under any allegiance necessarily. Um, but I mean, in Dark Souls 3, you can kill. Um, actually, no, I think in all three of the Souls games, you can kill pretty much everybody.
Oh, I think I actually thought of one. It's been so long since I've played the campaign to it, though. It's it's a Star Wars game, Star Wars Battlefront 2. You play as the 501st, and like you go from being a clone trooper, and then Order 66 happens, and then all your missions kind of just go dark type thing. You start killing all the Jedi, then you go like assassinate the Queen for hiding Jedi, then you're killing rebels. Like it like you go from being the good guy to being the bad guy.
Um, I guess in a way you could say cyberpunk, but you're not really a villain. You're just kind of trying to save yourself in that game.
Well,
I mean, yeah, you're a criminal, but I
well,
mean,
like the thing is, that's a choice-based game. You could make like your character an evil criminal or like a more of an anti-hero criminal type thing.
the problem that I have with choice-based games and saying that you play as the criminal, and Matt, you'll probably agree. Actually, you'll both probably agree, honestly. Is that choice-based games make it a perspective thing? Which, yeah, being the villain, that is a perspective, but choice-based, you don't always have to be the villain or like be the dick. You know what I mean? Like you're choosing where and which you pick and how you interact with the world. You could be the straight up biggest asshole in 2077, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're a villain. Um, well, even in Skyrim, I mean, yeah, there's racists, you know, in Skyrim, and like, what is it technically speciest?
Um,
No, you're spot on.
Um, that exists in Skyrim and you know the Elder Scrolls games, but if you look past that in terms of like what the game is about and stuff, like you're still not really a villain based on your character and all, like, because that's a perspective thing. Like, are you like just an asshole who basically just wants more power or like that kind of thing, you know? Like outside of the racism in that game, it really I think it's more of a perspective thing. Also, every time that the option comes up to kill those motherfuckers, I 100% do. Every time.
All right, y'all. I gotta help Alicia. I'll be back.
All right, bro. I'm gonna end the recording.
well, that's a wrap.